Hi everyone, welcome back to the fourth episode of my vlog series Straight from the Belly, and I'm talking about my weight loss journey and transformation phase. Today specifically I'm going to deal with the challenges and difficulties that I faced once I started with this diet. So if you've been keeping up with me until here, thank you so much. I hope you've hit the subscribe button already, and if you haven't, please do that. Don't forget to like and hit the bell icon. Let's jump right into some of the difficulties and the challenges I faced, because obviously no journey, no transformation is complete without its own share of challenges. So my first and biggest challenge was that I was completely on my own, because everything that I now had to eat is different from what the family members eat, because I mean, except for the vegetables that came home, but a lot of the other ingredients and supplements had to be purchased separately. So now I was looking for organic stores and finding out what's near to me, and if I had to purchase it online and the whole thing. So I was now spending a lot of time reading labels, which is something I very rarely did before. But now I had to, because now I needed to see what everything is made up of. Did it have any allergy containing components, any preservatives, added sugars, and a lot of hidden, terms that I needed to educate myself about. And so then I found out a lot of chemical compounds and things that they say something but they mean something else, and I had to stay away from them and all of that. Okay, so that was my biggest challenge initially. I was spending a lot of time doing my grocery. So slowly I got a hang of it. I would probably get it home delivered, or I would just order it online and things like that. Once I, had a routine going, once I had a common place where I could get all my purchases from. Because I was just starting, I had to start from scratch and cook everything on my own. And like, if you're working with gluten, your chapatis are going to be nice and soft, even if you're going to eat them at night and you've made them in the morning. But because I don't have that option for gluten or any of its derivatives, I had to make my chapatis fresh, or whatever I was whichever flour I was working with, because otherwise, it's not very edible, or it doesn't suit your palate that much. So yeah, I was majorly spending a lot of time in the kitchen trying to cook, figuring out what works with what, because now you're not eating dal, you're not eating rice, eating chapati, which is something that you've grown up eating all your life. So I was trying to do a lot of permutation, combination, and figure out what works with what, how does this taste with that, and things like that. Of course, I had a meal plan to follow, but I was also starting to get a hang of some of the things myself. Okay, and because this started to be a time consuming process, one thing I decided to do was to pretty much eat the same thing every day. Okay, I didn't know that I was ever going to do something like this, because I'd heard that Mark Zuckerberg actually wears the same thing every day to get rid of decision fatigue. Okay, Google that term. And I didn't care what decision fatigue was. I didn't even know what it was, until I found out that it's just easier to eat the same thing every day, to probably wear the same thing every day, because you have time and energy and the space in your mind to do other things, like more important things, right? So I decided to eat the same thing every day, at least 5 days a week, or at least 5 or 6 days a week. So not just that, but I also started understanding how I can save time by prepping my meals. Like, if I had to chop, cook, boil, soak, whatever I had to do, if I had time to do it the night before, I would do that. And most of my meals were like minimal cooking. Like, I didn't want to spend hours in front of the stove like elaborate Indian cooking requires you to do. So I would rather just quickly boil, throw in some things, or steam my veggies, throw in some things, and be good to go. So I wasn't doing any of the typical Indian khana preparation, right? So it was just faster for me that way, because I had to be with my son, I had to work, I had to look after my family, and I was also moving homes at that time. So this is something that I just had to do. Okay, now let's talk about how I juggled between everything that's related to my diet and my workout, yoga, spending time with Ved or with my family, looking after the home and things like that. So I learned this new term called micromanagement. All right, now micromanagement is basically multitasking and doing little things on the go. Okay, because you don't have time to say, okay, I'm going to eat this meal and so I'm going to make that, you know, at so and so time, at so and so day and whatever. You've got to pretty much be on your toes and think fast and think quick, because a lot of times my son Ved would be wrapped around my body and I hardly would get the time to cook sometimes. Okay, so I had to figure out what I can do in the most efficient way. Okay, so I would wake up in the morning at 5, do a little bit of meal prep, have my supplements taken at that time, and then I would start my yoga practice from about 6:30 to 8:30, or sometimes 6 to 8, and then Ved is waking up by then, and then I've got to give him all my attention. So through the day there were so many activities that could very easily distract me from keeping up with my diet. Okay, so I had to like set up reminders on my phone that okay, now it's time for you to take your supplement, okay, now it's time for you to prepare this meal, or now it's time for you to do whatever. So I literally did that. I had a lot of reminders on my phone when I had quite a few things to do. It was pretty time demanding. Like this whole new change in lifestyle and diet requires you to put a lot of effort and thought into it and preparation. So I really struggled with it for some days. And also obviously in the middle of all of that, sometimes I would even forget to cook or sometimes forget to prepare. And you know, I'm the one deciding what my mother has to eat, what my husband has to eat, what my son has to eat, what I have to tell the cook to make. So I got this whiteboard and I stuck that on the fridge, and I started writing every single meal that every member of my family has to eat, so that we could minimize, you know, double work or save up on a lot of time and things like that. So yeah, these were a couple of things that I had to do because I was obviously juggling between so many things. And of course it's not always hunky-dory. Sometimes you know, like I said, I would forget to cook and I had to make something up, you know, in an instant. And sometimes all you've got to eat or drink is like your coconut yogurt or your protein shake, and that's it. But it's okay. I have no complaints. I was happy that I still got through the day sticking to my diet without having any major incidences. So yeah, that was the whole juggling phase, which I am kind of still doing now, but I've gotten a hang of it now. Third challenge for me was dealing with my food intolerances and cravings. Okay, if you think that I'm super mentally strong and, you know, if I made up my mind to stop eating all the stuff that I like, no, I still had tons and tons of cravings because I was just coming out of that phase where you know, as a breastfeeding mom, you have to eat so much because your body is working really hard to like prepare breast milk and things like that. So when I was breastfeeding, I was eating almost 5 to 6 times every day, and even at night, because a lot of breast milk I was pumping even at night. So I still remember holding the pump in one hand and eating something with the other hand, because I used to feel so hungry. And I was just coming out of that phase. I had just stopped breastfeeding. So my body was obviously used to that routine where I was feeding it so much of food. So it was definitely hard for me sometimes to stick to this routine. Now, this routine that I had was that I was supposed to eat only 3 meals in a day. No snacking in the middle, no like popping something or tasting something in the middle, because your gut has to heal, your gut needs time to heal. And I realized that a lot of this snacking behavior wreaks a lot of havoc on your gut. So I was literally not eating anything from between my breakfast to lunch and between my lunch and dinner. My dinner was at 6:30 in the evening, and the breakfast in the next morning was at it still is at about 10 in the morning. So I do get at least 15-14 hours of a gap in the middle, because the gut really needs that resting time. So there has been some times where I want to eat, if I'm working until late night, I want to snack on something, or if I'm going out, I want to eat something along with my husband and things like that. And it was hard because now I'm not eating the stuff that I used to eat. Like gulab jamuns are my favorite, pani puri and pav bhaji, and all of these things which have gluten are off the table. So everybody in my family is like, oh, come on, join us. One pani puri, one pav bhaji, one gulab jamun won't really hurt you. But I was explaining to them, no, look, this has gluten. I have a gluten allergy, and I need to go to the hospital if you feed me this. Or I had to make it sound like something's going to be really wrong with me if you give me that, because I realized it does really have a negative impact on my body and my thyroid. So I had to completely be super headstrong to deal with this situation. And initially, of course, it was tough. I would have to sit separately and just watch them, because I've eaten my dinner and everybody's enjoying their food. They're eating noodles and whatever junk that generally we eat, when there's a family meeting or get together or whatever occasion. So yeah, that's pretty much been the way of life for me. But now I'm really happy. I feel like, oh, I don't even want to eat that anymore, because I've got my alternatives. I'm really happy, because especially the way the gut feels, and I've seen how it feels when I do take something that my body does not accept. So I don't want to go back there. So I kind of started finding out what are the things that my body does not tolerate. Okay, so how did I do that? Obviously, when you are completely off these potentially harmful ingredients, your body starts to go to its natural state, or to go back to its original state. And once you start to slowly introduce back some of the things that you used to eat, you will understand how it works in the body. So some of the food intolerances were sometimes a little difficult to deal with. There was constipation or bloating, a lot of uneasiness, and this kind of cemented more and more my determination to continue with this diet for the rest of my life, because I never want to disturb my gut bacteria or to kind of do any more harm to it, because if you end up eating something you're not supposed to, something that irritates your gut, it takes a long time for it to heal, and you don't want to come back to square one so easily. So yeah, so I was strictly off gluten and all of these derivatives of gluten. And another frustrating thing for me was that because I had thyroid, I still do, I'm working on reversing it, but everything is very naturally slow with your body. Your metabolism is slow, your digestive process is slow, a lot of the functions in the body are probably slow. So I took about a year to lose 20 kilos, which is a lot more than someone would do normally. So yes, I want to admit that I did get frustrated sometimes and say, oh God, why is it taking me forever? Why is my body not showing me some results? But it was not just weight loss, right? Because it all works together. You know, if you've got stress, if you're not sleeping properly, it shows in your body, right? Your body works differently under different situations. So I had to set everything right to make sure that my body was functioning properly and to benefit from this diet. So I really had to sleep well. I really had to put an effort in fixing my routine and making sure everything goes into my body at the right time and things like that. Now, the last challenge, which is I think the hardest for me, because when I have to travel, you know, in this diet or this whole lifestyle change that I've made, it's super difficult. Like, I remember the first time I had to travel, I literally had to sit down with Pratima and tell her, okay, I'm going to such and such place. What do I eat? How do I manage with stuff if I don't get it and things like that? And so what she told me was that, look, you cannot follow and stick to your diet 100% when you're traveling. Okay, you've got to be a little flexible, because it's just not going to happen. No matter where you go, once you're out of your house, it's not going to be possible for you to stick to your plan. So keeping that in mind, she gave me a little bit of an advice as to how I can cope up with the cooking and finding the ingredients, or finding some alternatives while I'm traveling, and trying as much as possible to stick to the diet. But she did tell me, of course, if you have to sometimes eat some extra carbs, it's okay. Eat some extra sweets, it's okay. But gluten was still off the table completely. I was not supposed to go back and touch gluten at all. And I was literally carrying bags and bags of material with me to go and cook wherever I was going. So I still remember the first time when I was in this diet. In the first initial couple of months, I was visiting my cousin, and I literally had 2 big bags with me, carrying my sauerkraut, my quinoa, my eggs, and my fruits and vegetables, because I really didn't want to bother anyone, and I wanted to be able to cook on my own and, you know, not go helter-skelter looking for things here and there. So, and even later on when I was traveling outside of Mumbai, you know, eating in the flight or eating in the train and eating in my family's house outside of Mumbai, I was firstly explaining to everybody what my diet is and why this is such a lifestyle change. And everybody thinks, oh, it's a diet, okay, so you can break your diet, you can do a cheat meal, you know, you can you have to be flexible, you know, when you're traveling. But it was so cumbersome for me to explain to everybody that, look, this is the way of my life and it's okay. I'm going to cook myself, I'm not going to bother you, I'll work with whatever I have and things like that. So yeah, it was definitely challenging. Sometimes I wouldn't even get time to cook, considering the fact that there is family or there is an event I had to be in, and or I have to look after Wade. So I just had to eat whatever was available, like for example at a wedding. But I would try to eat more of the vegetables if that's available than to go and eat all these high carb items. So yeah, and I would literally take my protein shake or you know, my fat bombs or some of the flours, and I remember making them in lots of other people's houses. So yeah, that was the biggest challenge, and that still is, because I still, whenever I have to go out with someone and I have to look up the menu beforehand and I've got to see, okay, do they have anything that I can eat, and I literally have to scan and prepare my mind to say that, okay, you know, this is what I'm going to get to eat as per my diet. So, and the funniest part is when I have to ask the waiter, or when I have to ask whoever is cooking what goes into that. So I had to ask a lot of waiters, okay, does this have this, what do you think goes into this? And I would have to sometimes ask the chef, because the waiters wouldn't know. For example, like when I was in Goa, even though I went to like a healthy restaurant, an organic restaurant, a lot of times people there wouldn't know what things contain gluten, what doesn't. So I literally had to ask, or if neither of them knew, then I can't eat that. So yeah, being gluten sensitive does have a lot of challenges. Yeah. So yeah, these were my challenges, and I hope you can be a little bit inspired or prepared before you want to take it up. But obviously this does not in any way overshadow the number of benefits that this diet and lifestyle are going to give you. I can't even begin to list out all the positives, all the benefits that I've had from this diet and from this transformation. Okay, so this is just one small chapter in this whole transformation journey. So I hope you will still be motivated enough to go through these challenges and just be better prepared when you do. So thank you for keeping up with me, guys. I'm going to see you in my next episode. Stay tuned. Bye bye.